The wind howled across the open prairie, drowning out Zara Porter's desperate cries for help as she clutched her infant son tightly to her chest, the circle of snarling coyotes closing in around them with each passing second. Colorado Territory, 1872. Zara Porter had always considered herself resourceful. At 24 years old, she had weathered more storms than most women twice her age. Widowed just 6 months earlier when her husband Thomas died from pneumonia, she was left alone with their 3-month-old baby boy, Samuel. With no family and few prospects in Denver, she had taken the stagecoach west toward the mining town of Silver Creek, where an old friend of Thomas had offered her work as a cook at his boarding house. But the stagecoach had been attacked by bandits 2 days prior. In the chaos, Zara had fled with Samuel into the wilderness, choosing the unknown dangers of the frontier over the certain peril of remaining with the armed robbers who had already shot the driver. For 2 days she had wandered, hoping to find the trail to Silver Creek, rationing the meager supplies in her satchel. Now, as dusk fell across the rugged landscape, she found herself backed against a rock face surrounded by a pack of coyotes. They had appeared seemingly from nowhere, materializing from the tall grass like ghosts, their hungry eyes fixed on her and the baby. "Stay back," she shouted, waving a broken branch with one hand while cradling Samuel against her with the other. The infant wailed, sensing his mother's fear. The coyotes, emboldened by hunger after a harsh winter, edged closer. One particularly bold animal lunged forward, snapping at Zara's skirts. She screamed, swinging the branch wildly. Her heart pounded so loudly she almost missed the sound of approaching hoofbeats. Almost. The coyotes heard it too, their ears perking up, heads turning toward the noise. A moment later, a figure on horseback crested the nearby hill, silhouetted against the fading light. "Get down!" A deep voice commanded. Zara immediately dropped to her knees, turning her body to shield Samuel. The sharp crack of a rifle split the air. Once, twice, 3 times in rapid succession. The coyotes scattered, yipping in fear, all except one that lay motionless on the ground. The horseman approached at a gallop, rifle still at the ready. As he drew closer, Zara could make out his features: a tall man with broad shoulders, a weathered face partially hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat, and intense blue eyes that scanned the area for any remaining threat. "Madam, are you hurt?" he asked, dismounting in one fluid motion. His voice was deep but gentle, tinged with concern. "No," Zara managed, her voice trembling. "We're not hurt, thank you." The stranger nodded, his eyes moving to the baby who continued to cry. Without hesitation, he shrugged off his heavy leather coat and wrapped it around both Zara and Samuel. "It'll be dark soon, and these parts get mighty cold at night," he said. "Name's Owen Rutherford. I've got a camp set up about a mile from here. You and your little one are welcome to it." Zara looked up at her rescuer, studying his face. Despite the grim set of his jaw and the weathered lines around his eyes, there was something undeniably kind in his expression. In the wilderness of the Colorado Territory, kindness was as rare and valuable as gold. "Zara Porter," she replied. "And this is Samuel. We're lost. Our stagecoach was attacked by bandits 2 days ago." Owen's expression darkened. "The Silver Creek stage, I heard about that. They're saying no survivors." "We ran during the attack," Zara explained, adjusting the coat around Samuel, who had finally begun to quiet down. "I've been trying to find my way to Silver Creek since then." "You're heading the wrong direction, Mrs. Porter," Owen said, glancing at the setting sun. "But we can talk about that once you're safe and warm. Can you ride?" Zara nodded. "Yes, but with the baby." "I'll hold him while you mount, then hand him up to you," Owen said, extending his arms. For a moment, Zara hesitated. This man was a stranger after all, but he had just saved their lives, and the alternative was spending another night alone in the wilderness. She carefully passed Samuel to him, watching as Owen cradled the infant with surprising gentleness for a man with such calloused hands. Once Zara was securely in the saddle, Owen passed Samuel back to her. then took the horse's reins and began leading them away from the scene of the attack. "Were you headed to Silver Creek as well, Mr. Rutherford?" Zara asked after they had walked in silence for several minutes. Owen glanced back at her. "Just Owen, madam, and no, I was tracking those bandits. They've hit 3 stagecoaches in the past month. I'm a bounty hunter, hired by the stage company to find them." "Alone?" Zara couldn't keep the surprise from her voice. A small, grim smile touched Owen's lips. "I work better that way." They soon arrived at a small clearing where Owen had made camp. A canvas tent was pitched beneath a large oak tree, and the remains of a small fire glowed with embers. Owen quickly built the fire back up, then prepared a simple meal of beans, bacon, and coffee. As they ate, Zara told him about Thomas, about her plans to work at the boarding house in Silver Creek, about her hopes for a new start. Owen listened quietly, offering few details about himself in return. "Silver Creek's still a good 3 days' ride from here," he said finally. "I can take you there, but it means postponing my hunt for those bandits." "I couldn't ask you to do that," Zara protested. "Perhaps you could just point me in the right direction." Owen's expression grew serious. "Mrs. Porter, there's no way I'm sending a woman and baby off alone in this territory. Not with those bandits still out there, not to mention wolves, bears, and who knows what else. We'll head for Silver Creek at first light." Zara wanted to argue but found she couldn't. The thought of facing the wilderness again, especially with Samuel, filled her with dread. "Thank you," she said instead. "And please call me Zara." Owen nodded, then stood and gathered the dishes. "You and the little one can take the tent tonight. I'll sleep out here by the fire." That night, wrapped in Owen's coat with Samuel nestled against her, Zara slept more soundly than she had in days. Her last thoughts before drifting off were of the quiet bounty hunter with the kind eyes and gentle hands who had appeared like a guardian angel when they needed one most. Dawn broke clear and cold over the camp. Zara awoke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Samuel cooing. Startled, she sat up quickly, only to find Owen sitting just outside the tent, holding her son and speaking to him in a low, soothing voice. "Good morning," Owen said when he noticed her watching. "Hope you don't mind, he was fussing and I didn't want him to wake you." "No, I don't mind," Zara said, surprised at how natural it looked, this rugged man cradling her infant son. "You seem quite comfortable with babies." A shadow passed over Owen's face. "Had a little brother," he said simply, offering no further explanation. He handed Samuel back to Zara. "There's coffee by the fire, we should get moving soon." They packed up camp efficiently, with Zara marveling at how Owen had adapted his gear to accommodate her and Samuel. He'd fashioned a small sling that attached to the saddle, allowing Samuel to ride securely between them while keeping Zara's hands free. "You're resourceful," she commented as they set off, the morning sun at their backs. "Necessity," Owen replied. "In this territory, you either adapt or you don't survive." As they rode, Zara learned that Owen had been a bounty hunter for 5 years, ever since returning from the war. Before that, he'd been a rancher in Texas, until Confederate raiders had burned his family's property to the ground. "What about you?" he asked. "How did you end up on that stagecoach?" Zara told him about growing up in Boston, about meeting Thomas when he came east to secure investors for a mining venture, about their whirlwind courtship and marriage, and their journey west. "Thomas had such dreams," she said, a note of sadness in her voice. "He believed there was a fortune waiting for us in Colorado. Instead, all I found was widowhood." "I'm sorry," Owen said, and though the words were simple, Zara could hear the genuine sympathy in his voice. They made good progress that day, stopping only briefly to rest the horse and feed Samuel. By nightfall, they had reached a small creek where Owen suggested they camp. As they sat by the fire that evening, Samuel sleeping peacefully nearby, Zara found herself studying Owen's profile in the flickering light. There was a quiet strength about him, a steadiness that she found immensely comforting. "Thank you," she said suddenly. "Not just for saving us from those coyotes, but for all of this. You didn't have to help us." Owen looked up from the fire, his blue eyes reflecting the flames. "Yes, I did," he said simply. Something in his tone made Zara's heart beat a little faster. She quickly looked away, reminding herself that this man was simply doing what any decent person would do. Nothing more. The next morning brought clouds and the threat of rain. Owen frowned at the sky as they packed up camp. "We need to make good time today," he said. "There's a way station about 20 miles from here. With luck, we can reach it before the storm hits." They rode hard, stopping only when necessary for Samuel's sake. The baby, surprisingly, seemed to enjoy the journey, gazing wide-eyed at the passing landscape and occasionally reaching out to pat the horse's neck. "He's going to be a natural horseman," Owen commented, watching Samuel's delighted expression. "Like his father," Zara said softly. "Thomas loved horses." Owen glanced back at her. "He sounds like a good man." "He was," Zara agreed, then added after a moment, "but I barely knew him, really. We were married less than a year." They fell silent after that, each lost in their own thoughts as dark clouds gathered overhead. The first fat raindrops began to fall just as a small cluster of buildings appeared on the horizon. "The way station," Owen said with relief. "We made it." The way station was little more than a sturdy cabin, a barn and a corral, run by a grizzled old man named Hank Wilson who greeted them with suspicious eyes until Owen explained their situation. "Got room for the night," Hank grudgingly admitted. $5 for board and meals." Owen paid without complaint, though Zara noted the way he carefully counted out the coins from a small leather pouch. Money was clearly not abundant for him. The cabin's interior was simple but clean, with a common room featuring a large fireplace, a small kitchen, and 2 sleeping rooms. Hank showed them to the smaller of the 2 rooms, which contained a narrow bed and a rough-hewn cradle. "Had a family through here last month with a little one," he explained. "Left the cradle behind cause it was slowing them down." "That's perfect, thank you," Zara said, carefully placing Samuel in the cradle. The baby yawned and stretched, then settled back to sleep, exhausted from the journey. "I'll take the floor," Owen said once Hank had left them. "Are you sure?" "I don't want to put you out. I've slept on worse," Owen assured her. "Much worse." Dinner that night was simple but filling: venison stew, cornbread, and strong black coffee. Hank ate with them, occasionally breaking his taciturn silence to share news of the territory. "Heard tell those stage bandits hit again yesterday," he said, watching Owen closely. "Army payroll wagon this time near Fort Collins." Owen's hand tightened on his spoon. "Any casualties?" "2 soldiers dead," Hank confirmed. "Army's offering a $1,000 reward now, dead or alive." Zara saw the conflict in Owen's eyes. $1,000 was a fortune, enough to set a man up properly. She understood suddenly that by helping her, he was potentially losing the chance at that reward. "Mr. Rutherford," she began. "If you need to know," Owen cut her off firmly. "I gave my word I'd see you and Samuel safely to Silver Creek." Later, as rain lashed against the cabin's windows and thunder rolled across the sky, Zara lay awake in the narrow bed, listening to Owen's steady breathing from his bedroll on the floor. She wondered about this man who had so unexpectedly become their protector. What drove him to hunt dangerous men across the wilderness? What had put that sadness in his eyes when he spoke of his little brother? Most of all, she wondered why the thought of parting ways with him in Silver Creek filled her with such inexplicable melancholy. The storm continued through the night and into the next day, forcing them to remain at the way station. Owen used the time to maintain his gear, cleaning his rifle and oiling his saddle while Zara tended to Samuel and mended her travel-worn dress. By mid-afternoon, with the rain still falling steadily, Owen suggested teaching Zara how to shoot. "I have a small revolver that would suit you," he said. "In these parts, a woman on her own should know how to protect herself and her child." Zara hesitated. "I've never fired a gun before." "All the more reason to learn," Owen replied. "We can practice inside just the basics of handling and loading." For the next hour, Owen patiently showed Zara how to hold the Colt pocket revolver, how to load the chambers, and how to aim. His hands were warm and sure as they corrected her grip, and Zara found herself acutely aware of his proximity, of the clean scent of soap and leather that seemed to cling to him. "You're a natural," Owen said approvingly as she successfully completed loading and unloading the weapon several times. "Once the rain stops, we'll try some actual firing." "I hope I never have to use it," Zara admitted. Owen's expression grew serious. "So do I, but hoping doesn't keep you safe out here." That evening, with Samuel fed and sleeping soundly in his cradle, Zara and Owen sat before the fire in the common room. Hank had retired early, leaving them alone with the crackling flames and the rhythmic drumming of rain on the roof. "Tell me about your brother," Zara said softly, remembering the shadow that had crossed Owen's face when he'd mentioned him. Owen was silent for so long that Zara thought he wouldn't answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and rough with emotion. His name was Caleb. "He was 10 years younger than me. Our mother died birthing him, so I helped raise him. When the war came, I joined up with the Union Army. Caleb was just 13, too young to fight, thank God. I left him with our father on the ranch." Owen paused, staring into the flames. "I was at Gettysburg when Confederate raiders came through our part of Texas. They burned everything, killed everyone they found. My father, he tried to protect Caleb." His voice broke slightly. "Neither of them survived." "Owen, I'm so sorry," Zara whispered, her heart aching for him. "I should have been there," he said, the words heavy with guilt. "Instead, I was fighting someone else's war, hundreds of miles away." Without thinking, Zara reached across and took his hand. His skin was rough with calluses, but his touch was gentle as his fingers curled around hers. "You couldn't have known," she said. "You were doing what you thought was right." Owen looked down at their joined hands, then slowly met her gaze. Something passed between them in that moment, a recognition of shared grief, of understanding. Zara felt her breath catch in her throat. The moment was broken by a sudden wail from the bedroom as Samuel awoke, hungry and demanding attention. Zara reluctantly withdrew her hand and stood. "I should tend to him," she said. Owen nodded, his eyes still holding hers. "Get some rest. The storm should pass by morning and we'll make for Silver Creek." As Zara nursed Samuel in the quiet of their room, she found herself thinking of Owen's story, of the pain he carried. She thought, too, of the way his hand had felt in hers, of the unexpected connection she felt to this solitary bounty hunter who had appeared in their lives just when they needed him most. She told herself it was merely gratitude, nothing more. After all, what future could there be for a widowed mother and a man who hunted dangerous criminals for a living? Their paths had crossed by chance and would soon diverge again. Yet as she drifted off to sleep that night, Zara couldn't help but wonder what it would be like if their journey together didn't have to end. The storm broke during the night, and they set out at dawn beneath clearing skies. The rain had left the world fresh and green, with wildflowers dotting the prairie in vibrant patches of color. "Beautiful country," Zara commented as they rode, Samuel secure in his improvised saddle sling. "It is that," Owen agreed. "Dangerous but beautiful, like most worthwhile things in life." They rode at a steady pace, with Owen pointing out landmarks and sharing stories of the territory. He knew the land intimately, every ridge and valley, every creek and stand of trees. To Zara, who had spent most of her life in cities, his knowledge seemed almost magical. By midday, they had covered considerable ground. They stopped for a brief rest near a small stream, allowing the horse to drink while Zara fed Samuel. "We should reach Silver Creek by tomorrow afternoon," Owen said, studying the horizon, "assuming we don't run into any trouble." As if summoned by his words, the distant sound of hoofbeats reached them. Owen immediately tensed, his hand moving to his rifle. "Get behind those rocks," he ordered, his voice low and urgent. "Take Samuel and stay down." Zara didn't argue. She gathered Samuel and hurried to the shelter of a large boulder, her heart pounding. From her position, she could see Owen positioning himself behind a fallen log, rifle at the ready. The riders appeared moments later, 3 men on horseback, moving at a leisurely pace. Even from a distance, Zara could tell they weren't ordinary travelers. Their clothes were too fine, their horses too good, and they rode with the easy confidence of men accustomed to taking what they wanted. "Bandits," Owen whispered, having moved silently to join her behind the rocks. "And not just any bandits, that's James Harlow and his crew. They're the ones who have been hitting the stagecoaches." Zara clutched Samuel tighter. "The ones who attacked my stage," Owen nodded grimly. "Most likely, they're heading straight for us. When I give the word, I want you to take Samuel and head for those trees about 50 yards to our right. Don't stop, don't look back, just run." "What about you?" Zara asked, fear evident in her voice. "I'll hold them off, give you time to get away." "No," Zara protested. "There are 3 of them." "You can't, I've faced worse odds," Owen cut her off. "Please, Zara, Samuel needs you." Before she could argue further, one of the riders spotted Owen's horse grazing near the stream. He called out to his companions and all 3 men drew their weapons. "Go," Owen said, pushing Zara toward the trees. Now, with Samuel clutched to her chest, Zara ran, her heart hammering against her ribs. Behind her, she heard Owen's voice ring out, commanding the bandits to throw down their weapons. Then came the sharp crack of gunfire. Zara reached the trees and kept running, branches whipping at her face and arms. Samuel wailed in protest at the jarring movement. More gunshots echoed behind her, followed by shouts and the thunder of hooves. Suddenly, a horse burst through the trees ahead of her. Zara skidded to a halt, nearly falling. Atop the horse sat one of the bandits, a thin-faced man with cold eyes and a cruel smile. "Well, well," he drawled. "What have we here? A lady and her babe all alone in the woods." Zara backed away, her mind racing. The pocket revolver Owen had given her was in her satchel, still attached to his saddle back at the stream. The bandit dismounted, keeping his gun trained on her. "You were on that stage, weren't you? The one from Denver. Thought we'd got everyone." "Please," Zara said, trying to keep her voice steady. "My baby, shut up," the man snapped. "James will want to know how you survived and who you've been talking to." He reached for her arm. A shot rang out and the bandit jerked backward, a look of surprise crossing his face before he crumpled to the ground. Zara spun around to see Owen emerging from the trees, blood streaming from a gash on his forehead, but his aim steady as he kept his rifle trained on the fallen man. "Are you hurt?" he demanded, eyes scanning her for injuries. "No," Zara managed. "We're fine. But you're bleeding, it's nothing," Owen dismissed, though the blood had begun to drip into his eye. "The other 2, dead," Owen confirmed, "but there will be more. Harlow never rides with less than 5 or 6 men. The others must be nearby." He glanced at the fallen bandit. "This one's still breathing, he might have information." Owen quickly bound the wounded man's hands, then tore a strip from his own shirt to press against the man's shoulder wound. "He'll live," he said grimly. "Long enough to hang anyway." With efficient movements, Owen helped Zara back to their camp where he secured the bandit to a tree. The man had regained consciousness and glared at them with hate-filled eyes. "You're dead, bounty hunter," he spat. "When Harlow finds out what you've done, where's Harlow headed?" Owen interrupted, his voice cold. "And how many men does he have with him?" The bandit laughed, then winced as the movement jarred his wounded shoulder. "Go to hell." Owen leaned closer. "You first, now talk." For a tense moment, Zara thought the man would refuse. Then, perhaps seeing something in Owen's eyes that frightened him more than his boss, he began to speak. "Harlow's got a hideout in the mountains north of Silver Creek, old mining camp. There's 5 more men with him. They're planning something big, a gold shipment coming through next week." Owen nodded, as if the information confirmed what he already suspected. "And the army payroll wagon, that was you too." The bandit's silence was answer enough. Owen turned to Zara. "We need to move, now. If these 3 don't return, Harlow will send others looking for them." "What about him?" Zara asked, nodding toward the prisoner. "We'll take him with us," Owen decided. "Turn him in at Silver Creek. His testimony could help bring Harlow to justice." They quickly packed up their meager camp, with Owen securing the wounded bandit to his own horse while Zara and Samuel rode the bandit's mount. It was a sturdy animal, well suited to the rough terrain, and Zara couldn't help but think of the irony that their escape might be made possible by one of the very men who had put them in danger in the first place. They rode hard for several hours, pushing the horses as much as they dared. Owen's wound had stopped bleeding, but Zara could see the pain in his eyes, the tightness around his mouth. As dusk approached, they reached a rocky outcropping that offered some shelter. Owen deemed it safe enough to stop for a few hours of rest. "We'll move on before dawn," he said as they set up a minimal camp. "With luck, we'll reach Silver Creek by midday tomorrow." The bandit, who had remained sullenly silent throughout their journey, was secured to a tree a short distance away. Owen gave him water and a small portion of food, then checked his wound. "It's not festering," he told the man. "You'll live to stand trial." "Harlow will kill you both before that happens," the bandit replied, but the bravado in his voice had faded, replaced by something closer to fear. Once Samuel was fed and sleeping, wrapped snugly in Owen's coat, Zara turned her attention to Owen's injury. The gash on his forehead was deep, the skin around it bruised and swollen. "Let me clean that," she insisted, dipping a cloth into their water supply. Owen sat still as she gently wiped away the dried blood, her touch light against his skin. "How did this happen?" she asked. "One of them got off a shot that ricocheted," Owen explained. "Caught me with a fragment." "You could have been killed," Zara said softly, her fingers brushing his hair back from the wound. Owen's eyes met hers. It was worth the risk. Something in his gaze made Zara's heart quicken. They were so close she could feel the warmth of his breath, could see the flecks of darker blue in his eyes. "Owen," she began, not entirely sure what she wanted to say. A sudden noise from the direction of the prisoner interrupted the moment. They both turned to see the bandit straining against his bonds, his face contorted with effort. Owen was on his feet instantly, moving to secure the man more tightly. "Try that again," he warned the prisoner, "and you'll ride the rest of the way face down across your saddle." The brief connection between Owen and Zara had been broken, but as she prepared her bedroll for the night, Zara found herself replaying the moment in her mind, wondering what might have happened if they hadn't been interrupted. They set out again before first light, traveling in tense silence. The prisoner had become increasingly agitated, his eyes constantly scanning the horizon as if expecting rescue. "He knows something," Owen murmured to Zara as they rode side by side. "Stay alert." Mid-morning brought them to a narrow pass between two hills. Owen surveyed the terrain with a frown. "I don't like this," he said quietly. "Perfect spot for an ambush." As if confirming his fears, the prisoner suddenly shouted, "Harlow, up here!" Owen's reaction was instantaneous. He wheeled his horse around, reaching for Zara's reins to pull her out of the path. A shot rang out, kicking up dust at their feet. "Ride," Owen commanded, slapping Zara's horse on the flank. The animal leaped forward just as more shots echoed through the pass. Zara clung to the saddle with one arm, the other wrapped protectively around Samuel. Behind her, she could hear the thunder of hooves as Owen followed, exchanging fire with unseen attackers. They burst from the pass onto open ground, but their pursuers were close behind. Zara risked a glance back to see three riders giving chase, with Owen bringing up the rear, turning in his saddle to fire at their attackers. "The trees," Owen shouted, pointing toward a dense stand of pines about half a mile ahead. "Head for cover." Zara urged her horse forward, her heart pounding with fear not for herself, but for Owen, who was deliberately placing himself between her and danger. They reached the trees just as one of the pursuers got close enough to grab at Zara's reins. Owen's rifle cracked and the man fell from his saddle with a cry. The remaining bandits pulled up short, apparently reconsidering their approach. "Keep going," Owen directed, his voice tight with pain. Zara realized with horror that he'd been hit. A dark stain was spreading across his left side. "You're wounded," she gasped. "It's not bad," he insisted, though his face had gone pale beneath his tan. "Just a graze. We need to keep moving." They pushed deeper into the forest, the dense trees providing cover from their pursuers. After about a mile, Owen called a halt in a small clearing beside a bubbling stream. "We've lost them for now," he said, dismounting stiffly, "but they'll pick up our trail again soon enough." Zara slid from her horse, Samuel still clutched to her chest, and hurried to Owen's side. "Let me see," she demanded, gesturing to his wound. Reluctantly, Owen lifted his shirt to reveal a bloody furrow across his ribs. It wasn't deep, as he'd claimed, but it was bleeding freely. "Sit," Zara ordered, settling Samuel on a blanket before turning her attention to Owen's injury. She tore strips from her petticoat to create bandages, working quickly to clean and bind the wound. "What happened to the prisoner?" she asked as she worked. "Cut him loose," Owen admitted. "Couldn't risk him giving away our position again." "So now he's back with Harlow," Zara said, tying off the bandage. Owen nodded grimly. "Which means they know exactly who they're chasing." "A bounty hunter and a witness," Zara concluded. "They won't let us reach Silver Creek without a fight." "No, they won't," Owen agreed. He stood carefully, testing his injury. "We need to keep moving. Silver Creek is still about 10 miles south. If we can reach it by nightfall, the sheriff there can organize a posse to go after Harlow." They rode more cautiously now, staying within the cover of the trees as much as possible. Owen led them on a winding path, doubling back occasionally to check for pursuit. As the afternoon wore on, the forest began to thin, giving way to rolling foothills. In the distance, Zara could make out the smoke from Chimney civilization at last. "Silver Creek," Owen confirmed, following her gaze. Another hour's ride. Relief flooded through Zara, but it was tempered by a strange sadness. Once they reached the town, their journey together would end. Owen would report the bandits to the sheriff, perhaps join a posse to hunt them down, and Zara would begin her new life at the boarding house. The thought left her feeling unexpectedly hollow. "What will you do?" she asked. "After we reach Silver Creek?" Owen was silent for a moment. "Finish what I started," he said finally. "Harlow and his gang need to be brought to justice." And then, he glanced at her, a question in his eyes. "I haven't thought that far ahead." Before Zara could respond, a movement in the trees to their left caught her attention. "Owen," she began, but it was too late. 4 men on horseback burst from the cover of the forest, cutting off their path to Silver Creek. At their head rode a tall man with a silver-streaked beard and cold eyes. James Harlow himself, Zara guessed. "Rutherford," Harlow called out. "I've been looking forward to meeting you. You've been causing me quite a bit of trouble." Owen positioned his horse in front of Zara's, his rifle raised. "It's over, Harlow. The law knows about your hideout, about your plans for the gold shipment. You won't get away with any of it." Harlow laughed, a harsh sound without humor. "The law? Out here, we are the law, Rutherford. Now hand over the woman and her brat, and I might let you live." "Not going to happen," Owen replied, his voice deadly calm. Harlow sighed theatrically. "Have it your way." He raised his hand, preparing to signal his men to attack. Before he could bring it down, a shot rang out from the direction of Silver Creek. One of Harlow's men cried out, clutching his arm. More shots followed in quick succession. Riders coming in. One of the bandits shouted, pointing toward a cloud of dust approaching from the town. Harlow's face contorted with rage. "This isn't over, Rutherford," he spat, wheeling his horse around. "Not by a long shot." The bandits retreated into the forest just as a group of mounted men, 7 or 8 of them, arrived on the scene. At their head rode a stocky man with a sheriff's badge pinned to his vest. "Rutherford," the sheriff called. "Owen Rutherford." Owen lowered his rifle, relief evident in his posture. "Sheriff Davis, your timing couldn't be better. Got word you might be headed this way with Harlow on your tail," the sheriff explained, dismounting. His eyes moved to Zara and Samuel. "Madam, you all right?" "Yes, thanks to Mr. Rutherford," Zara replied. The sheriff nodded. "Let's get you folks into town. Looks like you could use a doctor, Rutherford." "I'm fine," Owen insisted, though Zara could see fresh blood seeping through his bandage. But Harlow and his men are still out there. They need to be stopped. And they will be, Sheriff Davis assured him. But first, let's get you patched up. Can't have our best bounty hunter bleeding to death before the job's done. The sheriff's men formed a protective escort around them for the ride into Silver Creek. As they approached the town, Zara took in the sight of the main street with its wooden boardwalks, the general store, saloon, and church steeple rising above the other buildings. It wasn't much compared to Denver or Boston, but in that moment, it looked like paradise. They were taken directly to the doctor's office, where Owen's wound was properly cleaned and stitched, despite his protests that it was merely a scratch. Zara and Samuel were given a room at the town's small hotel, with the sheriff posting a deputy outside their door as a precaution. Harlow won't try anything in town, Sheriff Davis assured them. He's not that stupid, but better safe than sorry. That evening, once Samuel was fed and sleeping peacefully in a proper crib provided by the hotel, Zara made her way downstairs to the small dining room. Owen was already there, seated at a corner table, a barely touched plate of food in front of him. "May I join you?" she asked. He stood immediately, pulling out a chair for her. "How's Samuel?" "Sleeping soundly," Zara replied, settling into the offered seat. "For the first time in days, I'm not worried about what might happen to him in the night." Owen nodded, understanding in his eyes. "You're safe now, both of you." "Thanks to you," Zara said softly. A faint color touched Owen's cheeks. "I just did what needed doing." They ate in companionable silence for a while. The events of the past few days seeming almost dreamlike now that they were surrounded by the normal sounds of the hotel, clinking silverware, murmured conversations, the occasional burst of laughter from the adjoining saloon. "I found Thomas's friend," Zara said eventually. "The one who offered me work at the boarding house. His name is William Clark." Owen looked up from his plate. "That's good news." "Yes," Zara agreed, though her voice lacked enthusiasm. "He says the position is still available." "I can start whenever I'm ready." "That's good," Owen repeated, his expression unreadable. Zara took a deep breath. "Owen, I wanted to thank you, not just for saving our lives, but for everything else. For your kindness to Samuel, for teaching me to shoot, for treating me as if I mattered." Owen reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. "You do matter, Zara, very much." The simple words, spoken with such quiet conviction, brought tears to Zara's eyes. Before she could respond, Sheriff Davis approached their table. "Sorry to interrupt," he said, nodding to Zara. "Rutherford, I've organized a posse. We ride at first light to go after Harlow." Owen withdrew his hand from Zara's and turned to face the sheriff. "I'll be ready." "Good man," Davis approved. "With any luck, we'll have Harlow and his gang behind bars by this time tomorrow." After the sheriff had moved on, an awkward silence fell between Owen and Zara. There were things she wanted to say, questions she wanted to ask, but the words wouldn't come. "I should check on Samuel," she said finally, rising from her chair. Owen stood as well. "Zara, wait." She paused, heart beating faster at the intensity in his eyes. "Be careful tomorrow," she said softly. "Harlow is dangerous." Owen nodded. "I will." Another moment passed between them, heavy with unspoken words. Then Zara turned and headed for the stairs, feeling Owen's gaze on her back all the way. In her room, she found Samuel still sleeping peacefully. Zara stood by the crib, watching her son's tiny chest rise and fall with each breath, thinking about the journey that had brought them here. She thought about Owen, riding out at dawn to face the dangerous men who had already tried to kill them once. She thought about the boarding house job waiting for her, about the new life she had planned. And she wondered why that life suddenly seemed so empty without Owen Rutherford in it. Dawn came too quickly. From her window, Zara watched as the posse gathered in the street below 15 men in all, armed and determined. Owen was among them, his tall figure easy to spot even from a distance. He sat straight in the saddle despite his injury, his face set in grim lines as Sheriff Davis gave final instructions. As if sensing her gaze, Owen looked up toward her window. Zara raised her hand in a small wave, and he touched the brim of his hat in acknowledgement. Then the posse was moving out, hooves clattering on the packed dirt of the main street, and Owen was gone. The day passed with excruciating slowness. Zara met with William Clark, a kindly older man who had been Thomas's partner in a short-lived mining venture. He showed her the boarding house, a large, well-maintained building on the edge of town, and introduced her to the current residents, mostly miners and a few traveling salesmen. "You and the little one will have the room at the back," Clark explained. "It's small but private. Meals are served at 7, noon, and 6. Sundays off." Zara thanked him, agreed to start work the following week, and returned to the hotel, her thoughts never straying far from Owen and the posse. Evening came with no word. Then night fell and still no sign of the returning men. Zara paced her room, checking on Samuel frequently though he slept undisturbed. Just after midnight, the sound of horses entering town drew her to the window. The posse had returned, their numbers diminished. In the dim light of the street lanterns, Zara searched frantically for Owen's familiar figure. Unable to see clearly, she wrapped a shawl around her shoulders and hurried downstairs, leaving Samuel in the care of the hotel owner's wife who had been helping with the baby. The scene on the main street was one of somber efficiency. Men dismounted wearily, leading their horses toward the livery stable. Several wounded were being helped toward the doctor's office. Zara approached Sheriff Davis, who was giving instructions to his deputies. "Sheriff," she called, her voice tight with anxiety, "Mr. Rutherford, is he?" Davis turned, his expression softening when he saw her. "He's alive, Mrs. Porter. Took a bullet meant for one of my deputies. Doc's with him now." Relief made Zara's knees weak. "And Harlow?" "Dead," the sheriff confirmed. "Along with most of his gang. The rest are locked up, awaiting trial." He gestured toward the doctor's office. "Rutherford's been asking for you, says he has something important to tell you." Heart pounding, Zara made her way to the small building that served as Silver Creek's medical facility. Inside, she found controlled chaos, wounded men on every available surface, the doctor and his assistant moving quickly between them. Owen lay on a cot in the corner, his face pale but his eyes alert. When he saw Zara, he attempted to sit up, only to be pushed back down by the doctor's assistant. "Stay still, Mr. Rutherford," the young woman admonished. "Those stitches won't hold if you keep moving around." Zara approached the cot, taking Owen's outstretched hand in hers. "You're hurt," she said, noting the fresh bandages wrapped around his shoulder and chest. "It looks worse than it is," Owen assured her, his voice weak but steady. "Harlow was a good shot." "But not good enough," Zara said, squeezing his hand. A small smile touched Owen's lips. "No, not good enough." His expression grew serious. "Zara, there's something I need to tell you, something I should have said before." Zara's heart beat faster. "What is it?" Owen took a deep breath, wincing slightly at the movement. "I know we haven't known each other long. I know you have plans, a job waiting, a new life all arranged. But these past few days—" He paused, seeming to search for the right words. "I've never met anyone like you, Zara. Your strength, your courage, the way you care for Samuel, I can't stop thinking about you, about both of you." Zara felt tears welling in her eyes. "Owen, let me finish," he said gently. "I don't have much to offer. I'm a bounty hunter with a price on my own head from men like Harlow. I don't have a proper home, just a small cabin in the mountains that I hardly ever see, but I do have this." He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small leather pouch. "The reward for Harlow, $1,000. He pressed the pouch into her hand. "It's yours and Samuel's, whether you feel the same way about me or not. I want you to have it. A fresh start." Zara looked down at the pouch, then back at Owen, her vision blurred by tears. "I can't accept this, please," Owen insisted. "If nothing else, consider it payment for saving my life. I'd have bled out in those woods if not for you." "Owen Rutherford," Zara said, her voice trembling with emotion, "I don't want your money." Pain flashed across Owen's face, quickly masked. "I understand." "I shouldn't have presumed." "No," Zara interrupted, placing her fingers gently against his lips. You don't understand at all. I don't want your money because what I want is you. Owen went very still, his eyes searching hers. Zara. These past few days, she continued, her words coming faster now, you've shown me what kind of man you are. Brave, yes, but also kind and gentle and good. The way you are with Samuel, the way you've protected us both. I've never felt safer than when I'm with you. And the thought of saying goodbye, of watching you ride away. She shook her head. I don't want that. I want you in our lives. In my life. For a moment, Owen said nothing, and Zara feared she had misunderstood, had revealed too much too soon. Then his hand came up to cup her cheek, his touch impossibly gentle. I love you, Zara Porter, he said simply. You and Samuel both. If you'll have me, I swear I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret it. Zara leaned forward, her lips finding his in a kiss that was both tender and fierce, a promise and a beginning. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, she rested her forehead against his. Is that a yes? Owen asked, a smile in his voice. Yes, Zara whispered. That's a yes. Silver Creek, Colorado Territory, 1 year later, the small cabin nestled in the foothills outside Silver Creek had undergone quite a transformation in the past year. A fresh coat of whitewash brightened the exterior, flower beds bloomed alongside the front porch, and a sturdy corral housed 3 horses and a milk cow. Inside, Zara Rutherford hummed softly as she kneaded bread dough, pausing occasionally to check on Samuel, who played contentedly on a quilt spread before the fireplace. At 15 months, he was a sturdy, curious toddler, his dark curls and bright eyes reminiscent of his father, though Zara could see her own determination in the set of his little jaw. The sound of hoofbeats outside made both Zara and Samuel look up. Papa! Samuel exclaimed, using one of the few words in his growing vocabulary. Zara smiled, wiping her hands on her apron as she moved to the door. Owen had been gone for 3 days, helping the sheriff track down a cattle rustler. Though his days as a bounty hunter were behind him, he now served as a deputy in Silver Creek and ran their small ranch. Zara still felt the same rush of relief each time he returned safely home. Owen dismounted, leading his horse toward the barn. Even from a distance, Zara could see the weariness in his movements, the slight stiffness in his left shoulder where Harlow's bullet had left its mark. She stepped onto the porch, Samuel balanced on her hip. Welcome home, Deputy Rutherford. Owen looked up, his tired face breaking into a wide smile at the sight of them. He quickly secured his horse and strode toward the cabin, taking the porch steps 2 at a time. There's my family, he said, wrapping them both in a tight embrace. He kissed Zara soundly, then took Samuel from her arms, tossing the laughing boy gently into the air before settling him against his chest. Did you catch your rustler? Zara asked, leading the way back inside. Owen nodded, following her to the kitchen where he sat at the table, Samuel on his knee. Caught him trying to move the stolen cattle across the territorial line. He'll stand trial next month. He accepted the cup of coffee Zara placed before him with a grateful smile. But enough about that. How are my favorite people? We're well, Zara replied, returning to her bread making. Samuel has a new tooth coming in, and Mrs. Davis from town brought by some preserves yesterday. Oh, and there was a letter from my friend Alina in Boston. Owen sipped his coffee, watching her with a contentment that still sometimes took Zara's breath away. And how are you feeling? He asked, his eyes moving to her midsection where the first subtle signs of their expected child had begun to show. Zara smiled, one hand resting briefly on her stomach. Strong as a horse, as Doc Miller would say. This little one isn't giving me nearly the trouble Samuel did. Good, Owen said softly. He set down his cup and rose, settling Samuel back on his quilt before moving to stand behind Zara. His arms encircled her waist, his hands gentle against the small swell of her belly. I missed you, he murmured against her ear. Both of you, all 3 of you. Zara leaned back against him, savoring his solid presence. We missed you too. The bed is too cold without you. Owen chuckled, the sound rumbling against her back. I'll be sure to warm it properly tonight. Zara turned in his arms, flour-dusted hands coming to rest on his chest. I'll hold you to that, deputy. Their lips met in a kiss that spoke of homecoming, of promises kept, and a future still unfolding. When they broke apart, Owen rested his forehead against hers. Do you ever think about that day? He asked. When we first met, often, Zara admitted. Though I could have done without the Coyotes. Owen smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners in the way she loved. I thank God for those Coyotes every day. Without them, I might never have found you. You would have, Zara said with certainty. Some things are meant to be. Later that evening, with Samuel asleep in his small bedroom, and the cabin quiet save for the crackling of the fire, Owen and Zara sat together on the porch swing, watching as the last light faded from the western sky. A blanket was tucked around them against the evening chill, and Owen's arm rested comfortably across Zara's shoulders. I have something for you, Owen said, reaching into his pocket. He withdrew a small carved wooden figure, a coyote, rendered with surprising detail and artistry. Zara took it, turning it over in her hands. It's beautiful. Did you make this? Owen nodded. During the long evenings on the trail, I thought, well, it seems only right that we should honor the creature that brought us together. Zara laughed softly. I'm not sure the Coyotes deserve all the credit. There was also a certain stubborn, handsome bounty hunter who happened to be passing by. Pure luck, Owen insisted, pressing a kiss to her temple. Not luck, Zara corrected, leaning into his embrace. Providence. They fell silent, content in each other's company as the first stars appeared overhead. In the distance, a coyote howled, the sound echoing across the darkening land. Owen tightened his arm around Zara. Our anniversary is next month, he reminded her. 1 year since you agreed to marry me in that doctor's office. Best decision I ever made, Zara said softly. Even with all this, Owen gestured toward their modest homestead. It's not the life you were used to in Boston. Zara turned to face him, her expression serious. Owen Rutherford, this life, our life, is worth 100 Boston mansions. You, me, Samuel, this little one on the way, this is everything I never knew I wanted. Owen's eyes, illuminated by the lantern hanging from the porch beam, were suspiciously bright. I love you, Zara Rutherford. More today than yesterday, and not as much as I will tomorrow. And I love you, Zara replied, sealing the words with a kiss. As they sat together in the gathering darkness, Zara thought about the journey that had brought them here from a desperate encounter on the Colorado prairie to this peaceful homestead filled with love and hope. She thought about the dangerous man Owen had been and the loving husband and father he had become. She thought about her own transformation from a frightened widow to a confident woman who could handle a rifle, manage a household, and love with her whole heart. The coyote howled again, closer this time, reminding Zara of that terrible, wonderful day when she and Samuel had been cornered, when Owen had fired his rifle and wrapped them both in his coat. It had been an ending and a beginning, a moment when their separate paths had converged into one shared journey. And as Zara rested her head against Owen's shoulder, their child growing beneath her heart, she knew with absolute certainty that their story was still just beginning. In the years to come, there would be more children, 2 daughters who inherited their mother's determination and their father's quiet strength. There would be challenges, harsh winters, drought summers, the ever-changing landscape of the territory as it moved toward statehood. There would be moments of fear, of doubt, of hardship. But through it all, there would be love, the enduring, resilient love that had begun with a desperate woman, a helpless infant, a pack of hungry coyotes, and a lonely bounty hunter who happened to be in the right place at exactly the right time. And in the end, that was all that truly mattered.